Hello and welcome to CherrySTEM special episode. This one's going to be creatively called The Pits. And it is the first time we're going to be doing something special, something interesting. But first, let me just say that we are brought to you by listeners such as yourself. And especially if you're a patron, because that's really where all the support comes from. So take a look on the page if you are watching us on the live stream. We have patreon.com/AnnaCherry. I recommend the Challenger mode to help this podcast grow as become an actual real boy podcast. And also get some awesome rewards for yourself. So if you can support us without hardship, please do so at patreon.com/AnnaCherry so we can keep doing this. And what is even this?
What are this?
What are this? Oh, that's right. That is all weird, is what it is. But yeah,
part of the format of today is that she refused to remind me what it was about because she wanted to make sure that I'd be saying I don't know a lot.
That's what it's about.
Normally, like some of our early podcasts, we did sort of I did a lot of preparation, trying to make it really technical. Well, this is like the exact opposite. I am completely unprepared.
Well, that's actually an interesting thing. You should say that because sort of the whole point, the way I see it anyway, for this specific situation, podcast, whatever we have going on, is that I'm calling it the pits, because it's like something that's like bad, right? That's what the expression means.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, something like
Yes.
that. So essentially, as you all know, we've essentially stayed away from outrage type marketing, but the outrage marketing dollar is so juicy. But also, on one hand, I've really been enjoying bringing you all the recent new things, new events, news, things like that, so we can stay, fairly varied and changing week to week. But then we also have all these like deep dives, and I miss those quite a bit. Just going balls deep into a topic. That's really fun, and I kind of miss dedicating some time to a topic. And we essentially, I think we're gonna go between the two, but the one thing we haven't hit yet is the outrage marketing. So
outrage, yes. Now
yeah.
I remember you telling me about this, and it pissing me off.
Well, we're in the car, yes, and we're reading about it, and it's one thing where it's like, you have an article, and then you just want to like respond to it. There's in our personal lives, there's a lot of things that piss us off that really frustrate us. And we like bitch about it to each other, and then we talk about putting it, out there on the air, as so many others have made sweet YouTube monies doing that. But we just can't bring ourselves to do it ever. This one time though, it's about vegetables, okay, man?
I'm getting an energy drink.
Yes, get me one too. We're gonna get fired up about this. So basically, I found a way to get fired up about things. And also where we can have like a response video or a response thing that we don't have to mince as many words, because it's essentially taking down somebody's bad take. So I'm really into that idea. So
all right,
let's see. I wouldn't call this a PBS fundraiser, but it is definitely a fundraiser. Our voices are being censored and redacted by YouTube, and we need your support. Actually, no, it's really simple. Is the more
no, we don't have the call in, so it's like call in the next 27 minutes, and you'll get a. We need to do that. Why are we not doing that?
And your donation will be matched by.
Yeah, that's right. The donation matching. That's part of it, right? We gotta do that
for sure.
If anybody would do that,
right?
That'd be nice.
Right?
Let's imagine doing that. Ooh,
yes,
wouldn't that be cool?
That would be so cool if we could do that. But no, it's simple. At the end of the day, the more funds we receive from any particular avenue, that's the thing we're gonna spend more time doing every week. So, the more Patreon goodies and support we get, the more Patreon rewards we can give out. One of which is, this podcast, more frequently, more variety, interviews. I actually have pre-taped a few. We're fucking ready to turn this into a real podcast. We just need you, boys and girls.
We're fucking ready.
We're always fucking
so now
ready.
let's
So once again, patreon.com/AnnaCherry, or if you want to support this podcast directly, this episode, specifically. If you want to make the show become a podcast, go to Patreon. If you want to support the show directly, we got a Streamlabs donation. It's up on the screen. Check it out. It's awesome. Let's move on to our actual point of the show. So,
Scientific American says vegetables are toxic, sugary snacks.
whoa. And, so I don't know when it's appropriate to talk about who these people are who both wrote it. Who wrote... There's a website on which this is published. There's two websites, obviously. Scientific American that
so there's
has
two
the
websites.
original.
This is a fight between two
Groups of people.
Two groups of people, and we're getting in the middle of it.
Hell
just so
yeah.
you understand what's going on here.
Thank you. So we have the American Council on Science and Health, that by the author Alex, or Dr. B, as he is known in some circles. I'm not kidding you. I did some research. So Dr. B here is a person who has specific
skeptic,
pursuits,
right?
and he's
a skeptic.
He is a debunker. So anyway, point is, when should I talk about these people? Should I talk about their what I learned of them before we discuss the articles, just to know where everyone's prejudice is coming from, or should we talk about it after the article so that way we don't get prejudiced against the articles based on who we like more? And by we, I mean the audience.
Okay. Well, right off the bat, people who are self-described skeptics are the most faith-filled assholes in the world. I hate them generally. And it's like, yes, everybody has a level of skepticism, and when you label yourself as a skeptic, it's usually because you have no real skepticism. You're just hiding behind whatever you think the big boys believe, and you're jumping into that group and saying this is the really authoritative authority. And God, I can't stand those kinds of people.
He wrote an entire article about how hard it is to be a junk science debunker like himself.
It's so hard. Yes, it's so hard
because everybody hates him.
Regurgitate the
no, because everybody hates him because he gets literal hate mail.
He should, because all he's doing is regurgitating a party line with absolutely no capability
that's the thing.
For thought outside of one fucking party line idea. God, I can't handle people like that.
That's the interesting thing, is that he believes that he's hated by both the left and the right. However, he writes for this particular American Council on Science and Health. Anytime the word council is featured, it's usually some oligarch-backed,
I swear to God,
some neo whatever, war profiteering,
neoliberalism,
essentially war profiteering,
suck the life out of the planet,
a slaver on the global scale that is using a council to narrate or give out a particular narrative to the people. So
there's multiple marks against him, but let's try
generally,
to hear about...
but see, that's not him. He's just simply having to write. He thinks he's hated by the left and the right.
Sure.
However, the American Council themselves, their mission is to debunk science. That's junk science, right?
Oh, okay.
So this whole American Council on Science and Health has some glowing words that people say about them. And these people happen to be the Wall Street Journal, the fucking George Bush, fucking Forbes, some House of Representative motherfucker.
Oh my
and then
God.
Julia Child. Why Julia Child? Why?
Know this stuff.
So that's
Holy
the research
shit.
I did.
Okay, wow. Fucking wow.
Right.
Of course, yes, debunking, because they're going to tell you this is the real science, and the rest of that, well, that's just fake science.
And then on the side of the Scientific American, we have the author is actually this woman who is a marine biologist and conservation strategist. And the co-author is actually her mother, and it's really fucking adorable because her only tweet on Twitter is thanking her daughter for setting up Twitter for her, and that's it. And her whole thing is no farms, cute. No food. So she's super into farming. But that's all I know about her. So here we have a marine biologist who's into conservation, and her mom, who seems to be into farms. So I don't know, man. And I think that's a picture of her and her chickens, honestly. Her mom. Yep. She's a regenerative farmer, Louise. Yep. So that's why it's co-authored by her mom.
Oh, so she's a tree-hugging hippie. Everything she says doesn't matter.
Look, Dr. B would never stoop that low. But a point about Dr. B, I'm talking about Alex Berezov, actually, probably. The only thing about that you need to take away from the article on him talking about getting death threats and all these like terrible fucking things, which sucks, and he thinks he's hated by the left and the right, which is probably true. However, the one thing you need to know about him is in his self-described thing is that as I was in the process of earning my PhD in microbiology, I learned some things about myself. I think grad school teaches you things. He's flexing that he was in grad school. Cool.
Keep saying that. PhD, grad school, just keep flexing.
Yes.
That. All right.
Yep.
You gotta make sure to say that a couple of times within the same
in a row.
sentence.
Yes.
Right.
It revealed something about myself. I didn't like the years-long projects with no guarantee of success, like, science. When experiments failed, I took it personally and became depressed. I learned that I needed quick hits, tiny daily successes to make me happy and motivated. Since I was good at writing, a career in science journalism seemed to make sense.
And of course, what's the most rewarding thing that you can do? The most dopamine hit? Agree with the big guys. That's right. That's always the dopamine hit. I've got the authorities behind me.
Exactly.
The authorities. Yeah. So let me step out of my. There's somebody on the ground, and I've got a big group behind me, and we're jumping on that guy on the ground. Yeah, I can jump out with all those authorities behind me and kick him over down. Yeah, those people. Oh God, I love those kind of people.
It's our favorite kinds of people.
My favorite kind of people, the cowards. All right, go ahead. Let's go.
Right, so we're going to be looking at the article, and it's Scientific American says vegetables are toxic, sugary snacks, and it is essentially a hot take on the article that is called "Broccoli is Dying, Corn is Toxic, Long Live Microbiomes." Now, so the interesting thing about it is that I didn't know the article of the Scientific American. The title of the Scientific American article. When I first found this, as it conveniently popped up on my Google search news feed thing, though
what's the name of this site? The Council on Foreign Relations? American Council on Science.
The weird thing is that I have gone to Scientific American. We've been subscribed to it. It is quite more likely for me to be recommended an article from Scientific American than from the American Council on Science and Health that I've never fucking heard of in my life before. But the special Google News thing somehow decided that I needed to see this article, not something I would be much more likely to see based on my previous search history.
And of course,
but whatever.
It's not like Scientific American is perfect in any way.
Oh no!
My God, no. Not even
but
slightly.
Still,
but
first though, they got me because so let's let you guys have the experience.
I'm sure there's been plenty of articles in Scientific American I've had deep issues with.
I'm sure. So all I know is that Scientific American says vegetables are toxic, and I was like, what? This is all just
Scientific
too crazy.
American says vegetables are toxic, sugary snacks.
I have to click on this. And so I started reading, and it says, the headline is not exaggeration or hyperbole. Scientific American just ran an article claiming that vegetables are becoming like sugary snacks and are toxic. And that's not even the worst part. And I was like, oh my God, babe, I gotta read this to you. Sounds crazy.
Yeah, now I'm like, really? Man, Scientific American's like going off the deep end. I expect it happens, but...
But then, the next sentence is... The article was given the ridiculous headline, broccoli is dying, corn is toxic, long live micro... And then I stop and think, well, broccoli is dying. I mean, that's possible. Corn is toxic. Actually, yes, it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Long live microbiomes. I don't know what that means, but wait a minute. Suddenly, I'm like, wait, hold on. What is this article? Hold on.
I thought you said that it was that broccoli was a sugary snack. Hold
right.
on. Was it broccoli is dying, or that it's a sugary? Well, hold on. These things are already incongruent.
Right. So now I'm confused. And I was like, wait, hold on, babe. We're going to have to figure this out because this is just confusing. Another interesting thing is, well, I just wish Streamlabs would keep your chat consistent as we move between the screens. I guess it decided not to, but that's okay. So, like, the chat...
Thank you, Streamlabs.
The chat refreshes every time we switch scenes. That's fun. So, yeah, and it's called Observation. So, they're not even trying to, like, be all... sciencey about it.
Yeah, this is...
I didn't know that. All I know is that this motherfucker is saying that it's co-authored by a marine biologist and a retired English teacher. And suddenly, I'm back on the skeptic train. I'm like, excuse me, a retired English teacher? No, bitch. Not a retired English teacher. A woman who runs Sky Hill Farm. What the shit is Sky Hill Farm? Where it tells us, it's right here. Regenerative farmer with a free-range chicken heritage and microbiomes. It's not just a retired English teacher, motherfucker. But point is still, it's just observations. It's not even... They're not even trying. And all they said is broccoli is dying, which seems like a sad thing. Corn is toxic. Who doesn't know that already? So the fact that he felt the need to go at it this hard, we start figuring this out by basically this first quote.
Right.
Because so we keep reading. I'm like, English teacher, excuse me, because I didn't know.
I know. Right off the bat, we're like, well, what the fuck is a
marine biologist?
Marine biologist and
a conservationist.
Right.
And a regenerative anyway.
So it's basically, it's like they already have you in this article going on the wrong context.
Right,
because that's right.
Let's keep you with us.
Yeah, we were like, well, what the fuck's a English teacher and a marine biologist, given like a science about what?
Publishing articles in Scientific American. What?
Well, Scientific American is it's a science magazine.
It's not a journal.
So it's just related. It's not a journal, right?
Right. It's science journalism.
And so sometimes it's just like on the History Channel, they're
gonna have some goofs. They're gonna have goofs.
Yeah. It's like...
So anyway, we keep reading, and we're still with them, as one might expect from the headline. So let's bring you back with us. All right. As one might expect from the headline, the article makes one outrageous claim after another, and we're like, all right, bring on these unscientific claims. What they got? And here's the first one. Lies, distortions, and laugh out loud whoppers start early and often. Let's dissect them. Quote, as food writer Mark Bittman recently remarked, since food is defined as a substance that provides nutrition and promotes growth, and poison is a substance that promotes illness, then much of what is produced by industrial agriculture is quite literally not food, but poison.
Okay, 100% on the mark.
We are 100% in agreement with this.
Because they qualified it with industrial agriculture.
Much
and if you don't fucking know that about food, then you're a goddamn moron.
Ostrich. You're an ostrich.
Yeah, you're just a fucking moron.
Or an ostrich.
Because if you're not paying any attention to your health, and you're not actually looking into how things are
you put
made,
in your body,
and and how much food has fucked us and fucked us and fucked us.
Look, if we're gonna talk about if we can't take in genderist ideas like feminism or postmodernism or even some people believe that liberalism or conservatives are dangerous ideas that we should be careful with, then why the fuck are we not the same way with our bodies? What is up with that? Like, why are we allowing unchecked things into our body just because they taste good? Like
Tarleytons are the kind most doctors smoke. There literally used to be commercials about the most doctors smoke this cigarette.
So then we put on the brakes and I go back to the original article.
It's like, hold on. They're right about that. So, and that's the whopper. That's what he starts out with as a crazy. This is crazy that they'd say such.
So things. At this point, we still don't know the original article except the title.
The one thing I already know is that he's a fucking imbecile.
And corn is toxic, especially if we talk about monoculture, the way it's produced for a variety of things like feed and industrial additives. So corn isn't even made to eat anymore at this point. And it's not even a GMO thing. There's just so much more to it than just like, she's anti-GMO. It's like, no, it's not even about that. It's the fact that our corn isn't even made for eating most of the time anymore. Now, anyway, we move on and we go like, all right.
Well, I mean, there's also the issue of like, if you don't have a whole lot of Native American heritage, there's a level of being used to certain kinds of foods that
lack of
that
digestive properties that we have.
Genetically, people are more developed around certain kinds of foods that are better. Like for Europeans, having a ton of corn has actually been very difficult on European people. And there's things like, for instance, we did testing with cattle and feeding certain types of cattle just corn changes so many different things about the meat, the levels of cholesterol and saturated fat, and there's just I forget what all of the different things were, but it was just amazing the difference between grass-fed meat and corn-fed meat
in terms of human digestion.
And well, not just human digestion, but in the nutrition value and the things that are
how
good it was for you versus how bad it was for you.
That's really great that you mentioned that, because so as the guy is Terry, as Dr. B, he does actually refer to himself as that. As he is tearing this apart, so the next thing He goes, this is the first sentence. Yes, that is how the screed actually begins. He spent some time with the thesaurus on this one.
Yeah, screed, man.
Everything you eat is poison. And we go, wait,
That's
hold
the
up.
first line? Everything you eat is poison?
Hold up, motherfucker. What we just read, the quote we just read, said much of what is produced by industrial agriculture. That is nowhere near what people would consider what you much of what you eat, or everything
much
you eat.
of, with the qualifier industrial,
right.
is not all of what you eat is poison.
Not
that is
me, anyway.
Such a gargantuan...
Not most of humans.
And he starts out saying, this is not hyperbolic. I'm okay with hyperbole. Yeah. I use hyperbole all the time. It is a useful literary tool. You're conveying that you have emotion about things.
It's a useful philosophical tool, too.
It's useful. However, he fucking said just a couple lines earlier, this is not hyperbole. He said, well, hyperbolic. Yeah. And it's like, and that he is being completely hyperbolic because they did not fucking say that. He wrote it himself. It's right fucking there. That's not what they said.
Right. Such a blatant mischaracterization.
Yeah, we got a cat knocking things down in the other room.
Probably shouldn't be.
Great. Let me go check.
Yes, please. Sounded like the tools. Yeah, so such a blatant mischaracterization of a quote that was just reproduced for us was enough to set us on guard quite a bit. And then everything you eat is poison. How do we know it? Because an organic food activist with no relevant scientific training and expertise says so. Okay, fine. Next quote. Data going back to 1940s, as reported by Eco Farming Daily, shows...
This is the quote from
the article. Shows the... It's all
oh, they see it? Okay.
But people who are listening can't see it, so you're on. Right on. Data going back to 1940s, as reported by Eco Farming Daily, shows that, quote, the level of every nutrient in almost every kind of food has fallen between 10 and 100%, end quote. And he goes on to say, Eco Farming Daily, really? Let's try a peer-reviewed journal instead, like the Journal of the Food Composition and Analysis, which concluded...
I'm with him here. I was like, okay, sure, all right, let's hear this.
I mean, I agree with the quote from the 40s, if it's backed off by science. Right. Which concluded in a March 2017 paper that comparisons of food composition data published decades apart are not reliable. Because... changes in data sources, crop varieties, geographic origin, ripeness, sample size, sampling methods, lab analysis, and statistic treatment affect reporting of nutrient levels.
Okay, first off, right off the bat, yes, there is a level of pedantry that makes it where you can't understand any data at all whatsoever.
But statistic analysis hasn't changed in fucking long ass time.
Yeah, no, there's, okay, but you can always level that criticism, okay? There's a level of being a pedant that you can make it where you can't compare anything to anything else because it's not the same. I can argue that about anything, and so every pedant who wants who wants to say this is not the same, there is an argument you can come up with to say, oh, that's not the same, so you can't compare it. Oh, that's not the same, so you can't compare it.
However, we're talking
you
about...
you literally can't think as a human being and actually work in
However,
any way.
Let's just take it as a simple logic counter-statement, logical supposition. Here he says that our initial assumption that level of every nutrient since the 40s has dropped down.
Right.
And his rebuttal to that is you cannot compare crops that vary by decades because of their crop varieties, geographic origin, ripeness, and data source. That is what food change is!
That's the fucking point.
That's what you do measure! That's the only thing you measure!
Yes, you're right. Those things have changed. And that's the fucking point.
Exactly. And he said decades apart. We're not talking about comparing 1940s with 2017. We're talking about comparing each decade to each other.
That's what industrial farming does, is it changes those things.
And you should be tracking it decade to decade to see if you're going in a good direction. My God. So at this point, we're like, all right, this has to be turned into sweet, sweet YouTube revenue. And by that, I mean just your views because we're not monetized. So holla. Hopefully your Patreon love and support. But yeah, so this is this motherfucker. And let's keep reading what he's got to say. So, all right. Eco farming, really? All right.
Really?
In a Twitter thread, Dr. Elizabeth Bick commented that copper levels decreased because perhaps copper isn't used as much as a fungicide anymore, but other nutrient levels are probably similar over time.
That's his quote. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, but...
but did she say that, though? I don't know.
But... okay, yeah. So his awesome other rebuttal to this quote by Eco Farming Daily, I guess.
Right.
Though it happened to be mentioned in the article.
Is a Twitter thread from somebody.
Is a Twitter thread by some doctor. She's a doctor, though. Come on.
Oh,
and she has a verified check mark. Thank you very fucking much.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's all we need to know.
And it's Microbiome Digest, so she knows what she's talking about. But she's very mad about the article. She says it's complete bullshit. And says, but other nutrient levels are probably similar over time. So thread by a doctor.
A thread by a doctor that says probably. Well, my mind's made up.
Why should we like?
No, we don't need to investigate any further. Our due diligence is done right there.
And of course,
and quotes. Thank goodness for multivitamins
from the article.
Thank nobody for multivitamins, which are a scam. Okay.
What?
As soon as somebody says anything about vitamins being a scam,
no. Multivitamins. Because he's probably talking about the colostrum one or whatever the shit one that has like 3 vitamins in it and
that can't even be absorbed by the body.
Right, because they're not the right chelated
central,
or unchelated
like
right.
Centrum,
yes, yeah.
Right,
so that probably is a scam, but
yeah, okay. Except that you can, if you go to like PubMed, you can find hundreds of thousands of studies on single fucking nutrients and how absolutely critical they are, and how much the average person does not get enough of this, or the average person does not get enough of this because of what? Oh, their diet. That's right, their fucking diet.
If you are gonna try to say we have good healthcare and you don't want any reform to it, I suggest you go to your doctor and take advantage of that good healthcare. And what you can do is you can actually run a test on your blood to find out what it is your body is deficient in. It's actually quite awesome to do. Just fucking go ahead and get some blood tests run, because some people might be definitely are deficient in different things, and you need to know what your personal body's composition is. But there are certain key vitamins that should be included in a multivitamin that we all have less of, simply because we eat less.
It's a typical baby and bathwater shit. Yes, there are claims
right
about vitamins that are bullshit. No shit, Sherlock. Okay, yes, there's claims that are bullshit about everything, and you don't throw away the entirety of a field that has massive mountains of fucking scientific evidence available that you can see exactly what the real truth is. You don't throw that all the fuck away because some crazy imbeciles claim that that all you gotta do is take a bunch of this one fucking vitamin and everything will be cured. Right. Yeah, there are stupid fucking claims about everything. There are stupid claims that, and you just can't fucking throw it away. Oh God, I'm flustered. What's going on here?
Yes.
Because they always do that. It's like this baby in the bathwater. Like, oh, there's a little bit of bathwater there. Fuck this baby. That's it. There's no baby. What are you doing there? Yeah, it's just gonna break. No, just leave it alone. You're good.
Okay.
It's fine. Okay.
I'm mad and breaking stuff. All right. So moving on to the rest of the article. Thank nobody for multivitamins. All right. Healthy people who eat a relatively balanced diet do not need dietary supplements of any kind. Citation needed, motherfucker.
That is fucking false.
Besides, they are poorly regulated, which means just about anything can be and is detected in them. True, but also not true. Depends on what you get, where you get it from.
If you want to focus on the exceptions,
talk about your Walmart
there's something
multivitamin.
called the rule, and then there's something called exceptions. Okay, and when you focus on the exceptions and act like it's the fucking rule, you're a moron.
Let's pretend we're talking to our friends instead of yelling at an enemy, because a lot of people who are listening to us are not this guy.
But you get mad with us.
Yes. I'm just saying, don't listen to this when you're like trying to like go to sleep at night or breastfeeding a baby on a porch, rocking back and forth. This is not. When you're enjoying a quiet lake, this is not.
You knew what you were getting into.
That's true.
You knew who I was.
True. You should know how passionate we get. Let's get angry about shit with us. Yeah. This is metal STEM, goddamn.
Yeah, that's right.
We go hard in our science discussions.
Well, shove them goddamn vitamins down your throat. Take your fucking vitamins.
This is actually what I have to put up with. He does tell me to take my vitamins just like that.
I do. God damn it. Just take your vitamins.
It's what the neighbors hear all the time.
That's what they hear all the time. That's it.
So yeah, some shit is poorly regulated when you're talking about getting like a little packet of diet tea from Walmart. Like, yes, you're probably gonna have Chinese asbestos in it, but like,
yeah, and you know what? You can totally yes. There are when you do not educate yourself about nutrition and then just go stuff your face with a bunch of whatever the fuck vitamins are popular.
Yeah, don't do
actually, you're probably going to harm yourself more than you do good. That is actually true.
Right.
I agree with that. If you're doing things in a stupid way, you're going to get stupid results. You got to
idiot-proof it, right?
Yeah, and vitamins are not idiot-proof.
Right.
They are not regulated and babied to the point where, there's not...
to the point where they're ineffective.
Right. There's not a coddling mother, making sure that you don't take any personal responsibility for your health and can just go and shove things in your face. There's nobody doing that. That is true. You can't harm yourself with it. You have to critically think,
approach it.
And so, we could reduce it to the point, and they are trying to get to the point where vitamins are completely nanny-stated to the point where you can't actually get anything that you really need. They're trying to do that. Absolutely. And that's why people like this motherfucker are on that whole anti-vitamin train, because they want to nanny-state the fuck out of it and make sure you don't have access to anything that might actually benefit you if you put some fucking intelligence into it and do your research and find out about yourself. Right.
Maintaining the status quo.
They will dumb it down to the point where you can't fucking do anything that might in some way harm yourself. You won't do anything that can benefit yourself either. Right. They'll make sure you can't fucking benefit yourself, but at least you won't be able to harm yourself except through the lack of it. Yeah, I mean, through the lack of it, we don't call that harm though, because it's not direct.
That's just a standard American
yeah, exactly. It's not. I'm not stabbing you. It's the knife that's stabbing you. You can't hold me responsible for what the knife did. Well, you can't hold my head responsible for what my arm did. Oh God! So now I'm going on the whole proxy war thing. Okay, never mind. We won't talk about proxy war and how people are easily fooled by just putting one step in between who is responsible and what they're actually doing. We won't talk about that now. All right, back to the vitamins.
If people were good at discerning that, we would not have gynocentrism, okay?
Yeah. Oh, I know. God. Yeah, they would be completely gone. People would be like, oh, yeah, there's only one step in between what this person is getting and who they act as responsible for it. So,
if people understood proxy war, we would not have gynocentrism.
It's true. And those things are very closely related. You're absolutely right.
All right. So, yeah, this guy's full of shit. I need citations on him saying that people who eat a relatively balanced, first of all, balanced what? What does that mean?
Oh, the food pyramid, right? Which is completely bullshit made up by
do not need dietary supplements of any kind. Also citation needed. So in that one sentence, I need two citations, actually. What do you mean by a balanced diet? And
just believe whatever consensus tells you. That's all. That's all you got to do.
No. Believe whatever the American Council on Science and Health on domestic relations, actually. They're propagandizing their own people. So.
Yeah, right. Let's go back. Wait. Let's go back to that page of who's supporting it. Who are the supporters of this show?
They're not supporters. They just have nice things to say.
They just have nice to say.
So the Wall Street Journal says that the ACSH knows the difference between a health care and a health threat. Health scare and a health threat. Oh well, see that's the thing. They do have some accolades, right? Okay, so just for a minute, let's give them credit where credit is due, ish. So their history is that all the way they were founded in 1978, actually. Mm-hmm. And they try to help with policy. The singular focus to publicly support evidence-based science and medicine. Now, they have done some things. We have long warned the public of the dangers of smoking, so they got that.
Oh, yes.
And we were the drive force behind seatbelt laws that save children. So shit all the way back in the 70s and the 80s. Cool. Famously, when
I bet the same people also were much against it until everybody else was for it. I bet the exact same people. because there were people who were like, oh, this anti-smoking people have been around cooking fires their entire life, for thousands of years, and you're saying that smoking is bad. That's just ridiculous. Look at all these doctors who smoke cigarettes every day. I know a friend of mine who smoked till he was 95 years old. And
what's your point?
It's just that the exact same people who are skeptics, well, as soon as it appears that the largest group now supports it, oh yes, I was supporting that the entire time. I was completely anti-smoking, absolutely from the very beginning. And it's like, yeah, sure you were.
But I mean, that's fine. Let's just take them at their word. They long warned the public of the dangers of smoking, driving force behind seatbelt laws. So shit that happened all the way back in the early '80s. Cool. Anything recent? No. Our warnings about chemophobia were portrayed in the groundbreaking documentary narrated by Walter Cronkite. Also sounds old as shit.
Ooh, I'd like to see that, because I wonder if they're
big fear, little risks.
I bet the
chemophobia sounds like some
I bet it was something defending some corporation that was under some class action lawsuit or something. I guarantee that's what that fucking is if we look it up.
And our science publications have informed key policymakers for decades.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's one to have on your list of
people being failed so badly by the government that Flint still has lead water. Yes, cool. Right. Good job, policymakers and council. When media physician Dr. Oz continued to foist off miracle foods and supplements to the public, council friends and members spearheaded the letter to Columbia University demanding he be removed from their faculty, which got nationwide attention. That doesn't sound like anything happened to it, but at least they got nationwide attention.
Who's Dr. Oz? Is that
some TV guy, I don't know. But point is, that doesn't sound like they removed him. It just sounds like they got a bunch of attention for calling for a man to be removed from his post.
Yeah, and so there's tons of charlatans, and that may have been one good thing they did. Okay,
cool. I mean, if that's even a good thing. Sounds more like they just witch hunted some dude, but whatever.
Yeah, they probably just dogpiled one dude and got a lot of publicity out of it, when there was a ton of other guys who are profiting far more.
Like Monsanto, that I'm sure they're friends with. Our science publications have informed key policymakers for decades. That's all you need to know, guys. George W. Bush said, by increasing our understanding of complex issues, you help Americans make sound decisions about their well-being and influence public policy.
Oh, so they're very influential.
Endorsed by Bush. Steve Forbes said,
putting health risks in proper perspective for our corporations. For proper perspective and educating journalists, legislators, and others about them is what the American Council on Science and Health is all about.
So they're all about
making sure that corporations
educating journalists and legislators.
Don't have to worry.
They're not about
what kind of shit
giving you scientific information. Right. They're not about protecting the public. They're about educating journalists and legislators. Sounds like a brainwashed think tank to me, but whatever. That's just
whatever. That's just our.
But no, they're just tax deductible, and so you can donate to them and be a really good giver to charity, because that's something that people do. They give to charities that in no way at all have anything to do with politics.
Sure that everybody knows everything. The status quo is perfect. Everything's great,
and they have no influence on.
There's no real risks out there
on politics or government or
don't
in
worry.
any way.
We're helping people by making sure they're not worried about the poison that the foods that we give them.
Look, this is just a tax deductible nonprofit education center that just happens to influence key policymakers that you can donate to.
Yes.
With your credit card and others, but it's not corrupt whatsoever.
There's no problem here. No problem.
This is not at all a corporation to government pipeline that is disguised as a charity.
This is not at all the typical think tank re-education to support big pharma, big. There's no. They probably. I bet they're also related to big pharma directly too in some way. I guarantee you, we can find a fucking link. Because there's no risks there. There's no we need to all this hysteria around what corporations are doing. We gotta reduce that.
Yep.
The evidence-free case against diet soda. Really? Is that so?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So the artificial.
I'm browsing through. I don't know what they say about that.
I guarantee you.
No. Don't.
I know.
Don't say anything about it.
Okay. We'll check it out later.
Yeah, we'll check it out later. But they for sure are talking about evidence-free case against diet soda. So that's not at all the case. But they pull out a lot of fancy words like confounding variables, and talking about heart disease, even though that's not what the issue with diet soda sweeteners is. It's not at all about heart disease. So it's like saying that I don't know, eating what is a common thing, like that smoking rots your teeth. It's like, no, it's because like there's two things as you grow up as a kid. You're like, smoking gives your kills your lungs, and then eating sugar rots your teeth.
Right.
And so this is like
masturbating grows hair on your knuckles, and
this is like saying like smoking.
I found out masturbating doesn't grow hair on your knuckles, so obviously smoking.
No, I'm just saying that what they're talking about is they're linking to things that were not linked. So it's like saying that smoking cigarettes causes you to grow hair on your knuckles. It's like nobody accused smoking cigarettes with that effect. That's
right,
not the problem.
But they're debunking that. It's called a straw man.
Yeah. That's what this article's already all full of.
Right.
They're talking about cardiovascular disease, and it's like heart disease and sugar. That's not what we're talking about. I mean, there's probably a link there too, but but anyway,
it's just a harder one to get at
in 60 seconds or less. Yeah. But yeah, just a preliminary. Once I get away from the giant donate button, just the preliminary view of the rest of their articles is quite pro corporation.
Oh my god, yes, they're talking about like that sugar's just fine. I mean, yeah, there's extra calories, but sugar's just, oh god, they're 100%. Oh my god, I had no idea. They're so right down the party line of protecting the fucking corporations.
Thank you, Google, for giving this to me. This is a find.
Man, it is. This is amazing. Like they're just right down the party line of fucking lining giant corporation pockets and fucking sucking the life out of humanity.
Well, I mean, they're trying here maybe to say that you can have your coffee without sugar because less calories or something. But I don't know. It doesn't matter. None of this has to do with anything that we're currently discussing.
Okay.
But it is interesting that they have a lot of articles about sugar. Like if you put that into a search bar, and apparently not just regular sugar, because sugar might be just a clickbait for them at this point, because he added the word sugary snacks in the description of the title in the article.
His clickbait title is Scientific American says vegetables are toxic sugary snacks, which quite obviously that is not what they fucking said.
No, what they said is broccoli is dying and corn is toxic, which doesn't sound like anything about that. But
let's read more about what they said.
They're asking, why are nutrients in our food declining? Well, for one, we are killing the soil it grows in. Prodigious use of biocides, herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, as well as synthetic chemical fertilizers and antibiotics kill or disrupt soil microorganisms that allow plants to absorb nutrients. Also, increased atmospheric CO2 is accelerating photosynthesis. Plants grow faster but contain fewer nutrients, which is expected to lead to worldwide nutrient deficiencies. Vegetables becoming more like sugary snacks, not good.
So here's the thing. Here's a very important point. Just like human beings have a microbiome in their body where it is absolutely necessary for various vitamins, that you have these beneficial gut bacteria and funguses, etc., to be able to produce certain vitamins. Right. The soil requires that same thing, and plants rely upon the natural microbiomes of soil where nutrients are produced in a certain way, and when you have those nutrients that are produced, they can simply uptake them and put them into the plant. And so quite obviously, if you change that because you go and you sterilize the ground with your simplistic methods that don't consider things like a microbiome and how that produces various nutrients, then immediately, obviously, there's going to be less nutrients. And that's not even counting how leaving the land fallow is important for getting the various different types of minerals, which are not something that are produced, but are actually they're in the soil and uptaken by plants. And so one of the reasons why we used to leave farmland fallow for a while is so that some of those nutrients could be brought back in, and we do not add back any of those mineral nutrients to our food. We grow the food in the same place over and over and over and over without any ability for those things which have to physically be replaced. They can't just be produced and from what is there, like what the microbiome of the land does. So there's so many different ways in which obviously there's a very direct rational, mechanical path that comes to where you're not going to have as many nutrients in factory farming as you will in more natural types of farming.
I hope you didn't blow your load just yet, because on this topic in particular, because he has a zinger on this one.
Oh boy.
So increased atmospheric CO2 is accelerating photosynthesis, the thing we just quoted, read from the original article on Scientific American. His response to it is that the idea that the nutrients in food will become too dilute is dubious to begin with. But it's also based on two flawed assumptions. One, nutrient poor crops like rice are the main nutrient source for poor people. What?
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 What is he? What?
Yeah, exactly. And two, diets won't change over time is untrue. Number one is untrue because while impoverished regions do rely heavily on food like rice, they rely on other things like fish too. And number two is untrue because diets do change over time, especially as the country becomes wealthier.
Yeah, all you gotta do is add wealth. That's it, man. Just make sure.
Because countries will just automatically become wealthier, and then the people will have to eat cake, and it'll be okay.
Yeah, let's let them eat cake. It'll be fine.
But that's not what we're talking about.
Wow, that is so out of nowhere. Surely he's getting that somewhere in the other article.
No. It's right after the quote we just read.
No, that makes no sense. That's like not even. That's like what's it called?
Oh, not only that, but the very next thing that the article talks about, the original Scientific American one, is not only are plants getting less nutritious, they're also getting more toxic. For over 90% of corn plants, the USA is number one. So she's talking about right now, right here, USA, America. Right before that, he didn't miss much. This is the 1940s, losing food from 10 to 100%.
Okay. All right, keep going.
There was nothing. Why are nutrients in food declining? And this is what he quoted.
Right. Okay, keep going down. So one of the things, here's the one
and
thing
now
that
we're
most
moving
people
on to
do not understand, and there are a lot of people who are anti-GMO who are just
but that's
superstitiously
not what we're talking about,
No, it's coming up in the next.
But that doesn't change the fact.
I don't know where he came up with that.
That doesn't change the fact that he said
fucking insane.
The idea that nutrients in food become dilute is based on nutrient poor crops like rice are main nutrients for poor people. What?
That's just completely.
He had a stroke. Yeah, he had a fucking stroke, and
that's completely. That's like the weirdest straw man ever. I mean,
and it was in the middle of that paragraph.
Maybe it's later on in that article. We just haven't gotten there.
No, because he goes vegetables become more like.
That doesn't matter. He can pull it out of. It could be later on in the other article.
It could be bad copy pasting.
That's like
for himself,
right?
But
he could just have gotten it. It could be later in the article somehow because this makes no sense. I mean, he literally had to have a fucking stroke. So. Yeah, so look up rice. Okay, it
doesn't exist. Okay. No, he literally had a stroke.
Okay, he had a stroke. Never mind.
Because he stopped in the middle. He stopped in the middle of that paragraph to say that.
Okay, so he's just hallucinating.
And then he is quoting.
Fucking hallucinating.
He's quoting vegetables becoming more like sugary snacks, not good, and he has a rebuttal to that.
Okay.
Those are two of the dumbest sentences ever constructed in the history of the English language. Ad hominem much? Even if and this is a science writer?
Yes.
This is a science journalist? All right. Even if vegetables lost all their nutritional content, we should still eat them because they provide fiber. Would that be nutritional content or not? I don't know. I would argue that fiber is the primary reason to eat. No, it's not. Eat fruits and vegetables, since most of our other foods is fortified with vitamins. Actually, it's literally the other way around. And
one of the most important reasons why you eat fiber is to feed your microbiome, which is part of what the other fucking article's about. And obviously, he doesn't fucking know that.
And don't you get fiber from like oats and buckwheat
and
wide variety of grains that you get fiber from, and then you get your minerals and vitamins from vegetables.
No, this is a typical. He
doesn't understand how
he's just regurgitating the party line because that's all he fucking has. He has no understanding of anything in reality. He just is regurgitating what he's fucking told to fucking regurgitate by whatever is fucking around him. All right, go back to the other article because they are getting to a point where that is important. And that is the talking about GMOs. People talk about GMOs.
But he does have a good point that
Americans, shitty, stupid way.
In just a second, Americans are chronically undernourished when it comes to fiber, largely because we don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. And there's finally a link to a public American.
Fiber is very important.
NCBI, the PubMed.
So he did say something truthful. Excellent. Good
he said something truthful, but I don't know if he's right about that it's fruits and vegetables, because common sources of intrinsic fiber include grain products, vegetables, legumes, and fruit. And what I think people like the American Council on Science and Health never wants to tell you is that you need to eat good grains to get your motherfucking fiber, because the only thing that's ever pushed on people is wheat.
Right.
That's all cereal is. That's all anything ever
and not
is.
Just that,
if you go to if you go to the actual grain pour for yourself section, where you have all the grains that exist in the world, there's so fucking many of them, people, and Americans aren't eating any of them, and that's where the fiber is. The same, the public, the public. Why do I keep saying that? The PubMed article that he linked. First thing they say is grain products, not fruits and vegetables, like he also just claimed, while linking the thing that says grain. He said fruits and vegetables, but what? So he did say something truthful, but even there he managed to lie.
And also, I mean, his point is stupid in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like, well, even if all the other nutrients were gone, we should still eat them for this. And it's like, that is a really dumb argument.
Then you should be chewing bark.
Yeah, you can get some... some fucking just go eat grass. You can get nothing but fiber there, man. You're not gonna be able to get the nutrients out of it any other way, but you'll be able to get the fiber. So we should still be eating grass because it has fiber. So right.
So right, you wanting to look at the
GMOs. Get to the fucking GMOs. So that's a very important part.
That's fine. He's talking about it in his article. He says, quote,
is that the... Okay.
Plus, a GMO corn is also engineered, which is the next paragraph. Plus, GMO corn is also engineered with genes that enable it to produce multiple insecticides in every cell. So what does this mean for us? Well, because corn is in so many foods, corn syrup, oils, and products of corn-fed farm animals, etc., we are often ingesting several toxins with each bite. And his response is, the Bt toxins engineered into corn target insects, not humans. This is well-known, well-established scientific fact. The author's claims are simply anti-biotech talking points with no basis in reality.
Okay, their talking points were perfect, and his was target. He specifically said targeted. Just because you target something doesn't mean you don't hit other fucking things. Okay, just because you target something, I think he knows he's fucking That's
producer. What I'm telling you. He is a liar.
I think it's
he's not stupid. He's a liar. That's what I'm telling you.
Exactly.
It's a debate we had. That's actually how this whole thing started, of us wanting to even bring this up on CherrySTEM, is because I was convinced this motherfucker's a liar based on this gross mischaracterization that everything you eat is poison.
And the whole time I was thinking he was just stupid.
Right.
Here with this line, I think he's a fucking liar.
No,
I think he's purposefully misleading people. Yes. Because if he's sitting there saying he put the weasel word target insects and not humans as his way to say it.
Not affect, not disrupt, not
that it
something
doesn't.
active.
Exactly. He specifically says it targets it because he wants to be absolutely within the rules of being correct and fool you with what the fuck he's saying.
On it.
Exactly. He can't be called on it because that's true. It does target insects and not humans. He's 100% correct there.
Who does it affect?
He's playing within the rules. He's within the rules there.
I'm not touching you.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you, you fucker.
I was telling you. Thank you. Dr. B is full of
right.
shit.
You're right. He's a fucking liar. He's purposely fucking misleading people.
Because whenever you have, narrative peddlers, you sometimes they are just stupid. And so you need to know, are they lying? Or are they stupid?
But being stupid is okay. Being a lying piece of shit that's purposely helping other motherfuckers exploit us, that's not okay.
And so he goes on to quote one more time the Scientific American article. Quote,
because yes, well, let me go back to the GMOs, sure. Because here's the thing. Yes, there are tons and tons and tons of people who are anti-GMO who are fucking morons. Right. They are superstitious, bandwagoning dipshits that when they're anti-GMO, because there's so many of them, now it's most of the time. Most people who say that who are anti-GMO are fucking idiots. Okay, that is true. But the problem is just because they're bandwagoners. It's just because they are on the fucking superstitious belief that fucks up the truth of the matter, which is that GMOs are not just for making the corn plant produce its own toxins that are supposedly safe, which have not gone through enough fucking testing, but in addition to that, I mean, there's so many different ways I could go with this, talking about like Tylenol, for instance, and how it is specifically liver toxic at all concentrations and not just at high concentrations. And
there's a comment from chat that made me laugh to the point where I had tears a little bit.
Yes, exactly. Oh my god.
Yes.
Oh yes, thank you, Charles. I'm completely derailed.
I thought that might help. You can talk about it like that.
Exactly. Go eat a fucking. Hey, rat poison only targets rats. I'm gonna go eat a fucking ton of it. I'm gonna use it as you know what? I'm gonna start using it as food all the time. It tastes great. Shit tastes fantastic.
Even if it had no nutritional value, you could still use it for fiber.
You should still eat it for fiber.
Because it only targets rats.
Because it only targets rats. What the fuck are you worried about? God, you alarmist.
You chemophobe.
Yes, you fucking chemophobes. Yeah, all these people just worried about all these toxic chemicals when all they do is just fucking kill motherfuckers and cause cancer like crazy and have done this. And we've only gone through this 1,000,000 times already. You know,
this time is different.
But this time it's definitely different.
But yeah, no, the GMO thing is easy to make fun of them because
it is because they are for the most part idiots. Okay?
Or it's easy to
and that's one of the things you have to understand is anything. So a lot of times new truths pop up and a bunch of people jump on the bandwagon, have no fucking clue what it really means, start repeating it, and then it makes it look stupid. And that's the thing with GMOs is they've made it look stupid, and it's not, because they designed it so that they can pour tons of neurotoxic fucking chemicals. Okay, what pesticides are a development that came out of what's it called? Nerve agents. Okay, when we were developing, nerve gas and things like that, we ended up finding that works for pesticides because basically insects are more sensitive to neurotoxins than humans are. That doesn't mean we're completely numb to them, the ones that affect them. And there's been tons and tons of things with various types of pesticides where we had class action lawsuits, and basically they've proven in a variety of ways that even in the smaller doses there are some effects that are not acceptable in various populations, and then it depends on the population you're in. And so there's a lot of complexity to it, and you can just glaze over that and act like they're safe, and it's just not fucking true at all, because there's lots of people who are more sensitive to it, and there are lots of times in which the specific pesticides are far more dangerous than should even be allowed, but simply because the company makes so much money, they can just pay people off and have enough lawyers to fight it, where it's just more profitable to pay off the various people who eventually figure out where their problems came from, and then it is to stop producing the chemical that is actually doing people harm. It's just it just comes down to economics, and so the thing is they allow. The GMO process has been for the purpose of being able to inundate. Now, one of the things that they do is they'll actually, instead of having the plant produce some sort of natural neurotoxic or some sort of natural insect sort of thing, which I actually agree is a very good idea, to have these natural insecticides that various plants produce and splice those genes in. That's a great idea. I love it. But what they do is they make it where these plants can handle way more neurotoxic shit than you'd normally be able to put on these plants, because it would fucking kill them. And that's why they're doing it, is to make it where these plants can live through this massive fucking dose of neurotoxic shit, and they'll literally put it where it's in the seed, and so it inundates the whole plant. That's one of the ways that they distribute it, is because there's so much of it, they can put it where they plant it with the seed, and the plant is uptaking it and putting it into all of its tissues. And so this is a very, very bad, stupid fucking practice. And it has been shown to cause problems in a variety of ways. And we don't know the level of problems that it causes, because what happens is technology can always outstrip the level of testing. And especially when it's new technology, you don't have regulations against it. You have to come up with new regulations against it. So people just start doing new stupid shit that causes lots of problems in health way before there's any law that says, hey, you have to fucking test that shit. And so even with testing, there's not adequate time to market, and there's always these huge pressures to make sure that it just gets across. So there's just so many different ways in which it's very fucking bad. And that's the association with GMOs that is important. Okay, it's not just genetically. We've been genetically modifying fucking plants since we started raising them. So that is a stupid argument. We should not be worried about just the genetic modification itself. We should be worried about what's the reason we're doing it, and what then is the effect after that reason. When you look to see what it is that they're doing, they're dumping tons and tons more pesticide than the fucking plant could handle. Then so they had to genetically modify it so they could shit more fucking pesticide into it. That's the problem. So just, make sure anytime somebody starts talking about GMOs, say, whoa, hold on. Know your goddamn story. Know what the fuck it is. Please don't just say it's genetically modified, because it gives any argument against it. The people who are on the GMO, anti-GMO bandwagon do more harm to that cause than good. Unfortunately. So yes, that's my spiel about that, because it is an important topic and it has been fucked up by too many bandwagoning people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Very true. A lot of times it becomes an umbrella definition, right? It starts stretching.
Yeah, it's the other side of the baby in the bathwater. Oh, there's a tiny baby out there in that ocean of bathwater. I mean, just drink down the whole ocean of bathwater. Nom, 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 nom. So they're either throwing out the baby with the bathwater or drinking an ocean of bathwater with the tiny baby, and it's just it's so frustrating.
Yes, it is.
Hey, Kitty.
Kitty's help.
Kitty, come over here. You can see I'm frustrated.
Yep.
You can see I'm frustrated, Kitty.
Let's see. Yeah, so that's the B2 toxins. Yeah. Okay, another quote. And I think that's the last one they have from the article. Quote, the epidemic of 20 chronic diseases, including diabetes, obesity, breast and thyroid cancers, stroke, and autism, is highly correlated with the rise in production of Roundup-ready GMO corn and soy, both sprayed with glyphosate.
Glyphosate has been coming up against huge mountains of proof of causing massive damage to people, okay? And so I guarantee you he's about to defend it. I guarantee I haven't read this far. They have an
entire article that says AAAS runs dishonest glyphosate story, then deletes it. Is politics to blame?
Oh,
so they're very invested.
No.
Also into e-cigarettes. That's a big thing.
Oh, they're also into that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever corporations want.
My God, they're just such corporate fucking whores. Yes, it's exactly what you are, you piece of shit. Oh, God.
Obesity, cancer, and autism are caused by biotechnology. I love how he calls it biotechnology to make it sound cool instead of like, no, just mutating fucking plants and then putting them inside people. which is what it actually is.
No, then taking a bunch of shit chemicals, stuffing the plant full of them.
And then making people eat it.
And then giving it to people to eat.
Obesity, cancer, and autism are caused by biotechnology. No, God did it, obviously. The authors got that claim from a paper published in the dubious Journal of Organic Systems, why is it dubious? Which, according to Mark Linus, does not appear in PubMed, suggesting it is not taken very seriously in a scientific community.
That may be a relevant argument.
If it doesn't appear in PubMed, that's a point.
That may be a relevant argument.
What's the solution to all of these fabricated problems? Tinkering with microbiome, of course, the latest go-to miracle solution for snake oil sales.
Oh, God, you fucking imbecile!
Naturally, the authors quote one such snake oil salesman, Zach Bush, who peddles a supplement for the modest monthly price of $50, $49.95, that supposedly prevents toxins from leaking out of your gut, whatever that means.
No, there's something. Okay. Toxins leaking out of you. Okay, something that does happen.
He doesn't know about the leaky gut syndrome.
Right, he probably doesn't understand. He doesn't know anything about microbiome. He's acting like it's some sort of magic shit when absolutely every credible doctor on the fucking planet is learning about it, and they're actually calling it a fucking organ now. A microbiome, they are starting to call it an organ. It's such an established part of fucking medical goddamn science.
He's a PhD microbiologist.
Oh yes, he is. I'm sure he is. Fucking he looks at one bacteria at a time and doesn't understand anything about how any of them interact with each other.
Well, I'm pretty sure he just got his degree and then that's it. He doesn't do anything.
I guarantee you, he just passed the fucking test.
He's a senior fellow.
He's probably like one of those motherfuckers that you went to school with where they're all cheating off each other and fucking...
Babe,
oh, God damn.
He didn't need to do any of that because he's the senior fellow of biomedical science at this fucking council.
Yeah. Oh, and then also...
So that means he just writes shit.
Well, not just that. He just... all that doing science stuff, man, I just got bored with that. It's so much easier to get those dopamine hits of fucking sucking up to corporations.
If you don't know how your science is going to work out because you're doing science and you're running experiments and you're just figuring out shit about the world...
How is that going to be satisfying?
Without preset conclusions being verified, that's just not satisfying.
If my biases aren't fucking, immediately
rewarded and met.
Then, man, it's just boring. I can't do that. Let me go write for this fucking council on foreign
No,
relations
let me
shit.
be a senior fellow of biomedical science at the American Council on Science and Health. That sounds really fucking impressive. Except he just writes blogs all day.
I dislike this guy so much. He can't suck my dick. He's not even allowed. Fuck this guy.
Leaky gut, whatever that is. If you switch to
I normally say he can suck my dick, but no. This guy in particular can't.
No, I don't want him to suck your dick. I'm not going in for sloppy seconds after that. Fuck that guy. No. To be fair, he does get anti-Semitic threats without even being Jewish. So I mean, a lot of people hate him. A lot of people really fucking hate him. So.
He's probably just claiming that. He's a liar. He's a lying piece of shit. He's probably just claiming that. Just so he can get... Because the people who hate me, they're a bunch of white supremacists.
Both sides, left and right. Though.
Yeah, he's automatic. The reason I guarantee it's a fucking lie. He's probably never had an anti-Semitic fucking comment against him. He's just saying it because he wants to portray anybody who's against him as some hateable fucking group.
That's just one of the things he said. He
quoted
quoted a lot of things into his article, none of which were screenshots. But there were a lot of quotes with a lot of asterisks. You could use your imagination. A lot of quotes of all the people hating on him. No screenshots, but a lot of transcribed quotes.
Yes.
About. If you switch to organic, the Scientific American authors claim that you will rejuvenate your microbiome and decrease your risk of autism, cancer, infertility, and Parkinson's disease. It goes without saying there isn't a shred of evidence for any of that.
They called me a racial slur and I'm not even black. It's like I bet that's what he's doing. I bet it's some sort of like little weird translation thing that he's able to fool himself into believing somehow.
I'm gonna have to call him on his bullshit for just a second though, because as you can see, they are a physician and medical communicator, John Bush, summed it up, and they quote him: "It is time to realize that pesticides are antibiotics themselves, antibiotics that are killing what is left of the good bacteria and biodiverse microbiomes in both our soil and our physical bodies." The end. You wouldn't know that he's selling anything.
Yeah.
It's just a really good quote by a guy.
And then they don't even have it that he's selling it in the thing.
I mean,
holy shit, you can't even find his product on his first fucking page.
Not on the first page.
This son of a bitch. God, this motherfucker pisses me off.
But I just want to say, additionally, a recent study found that there's a link here. There's a link to regenerative farming here, more regenerative farming here, a glyphosate link here, organic for all, that's probably not a link. Medicine concluded, link here. So I mean, they are putting in.
Wow, you found
even the Guardian too.
Such a gem.
I didn't find
anti-science,
Google gave it to
science motherfuckers.
Google gave it to me. Thank you, Google. Your pushing of propaganda has resulted in a gem that.
He's a skeptic. He's a skeptic. Yeah.
No, he's a junk science debunker.
Junk science debunker. Yeah.
So the end of his article, the blog, can't even call it an article, it's a fucking blog. Believe it or not, those lies were just the most
flagrant ones.
Just the most lies.
Those lies.
There were probably at least a dozen others. At least a dozen. In my 9 years in science writing, I've never before seen an article that's so egregiously twisted and misrepresented a whole host of sciences. I guess he didn't proofread his own then.
Yes, exactly.
From nutrition and agriculture to biotechnology and microbiology. What an embarrassment for Scientific American. Yeah, he's full of shit.
They don't even deserve to have American in the title anymore.
So now, should we read the actual article?
Yes, let's read the actual fucking article, because fuck that guy.
Because we still have an hour, and I think we should read the actual article and agree with it, because it's so much better. And yes. It would be bullshit to like tell you guys that there's this awesome article that this asshole's being an asshole about, and then like not tell you what's in it.
Okay.
And have you read it yourself, because who has time for that? Clearly nobody has time for that. So, all right. Broccoli is dying, corn is toxic, long live microbiomes. And now that I know what microbiomes means, I'm actually totally on board with it.
No shit.
Let's move past the green and gene revolution.
Everybody does a little bit of click. That is a little clickbaity with the
dying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unless they have something in particular. We haven't read it yet. Let's fucking read the rest of it. All we've gotten is his report of it.
Let's move past the green and gene revolutions to a microbiome renaissance. Let's do it. Let's read it.
Absolutely.
As food writer Mark Bittman recently remarked, since food is defined as a substance that provides nutrition and promotes growth, and poison is a substance that promotes illness, then much of what is produced by industrial agriculture is quite literally not food but poison. Of course, it doesn't have to be this way. Eliminating pesticides and transitioning to organic regenerative farming can get us back on track to nutritious food, restore microbiomes, and protect our health. Let's break all this down and then talk solutions. Do you want to take these 2 paragraphs?
Sure.
Cool. Should we give people it to read along or just?
Sure. All right. You would have to eat twice as much broccoli today to get the same nutrients as a generation ago. That's according to data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture from 1975 to 2010, as reported by Planetary Health / Amberwave. So much chewing, and in fact, the situation may be even more dire. Data going back to 1940, as reported by Eco Farming Daily, shows the level of every nutrient in almost every kind of food has fallen between 10 and 100%. An individual today would need to consume twice as much meat, 3 times as much fruit, and 4 to 5 times as many vegetables to obtain the same amount of minerals and trace elements available in those same foods in 1940. Oh my God, they specifically brought up minerals, which I was talking about earlier. Those things cannot be just automatically replenished in the soil, even if you have a good, microbiology, you producing the vitamins, etc., that the plants will feed on. And so thank goodness for multivitamins, but we've also got to fix this. Why are nutrients in our food declining? Well, for one, we are killing the soil it grows in. Prodigious use of biocides, herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, as well as synthetic chemical fertilizers and antibiotics kill or disrupt soil microorganisms that allow plants to absorb nutrients. Also, increased atmospheric CO2 is accelerating photosynthesis, and plants grow faster but contain fewer nutrients, which is expected to lead to worldwide nutrient deficiencies. Vegetables becoming more like sugary snacks.
Worldwide nutrient deficiency. Is that what keyed him off to talk about rice in poor regions?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm still trying to puzzle that out.
Yeah, because
it was right around that.
Maybe so. Maybe that's what he's talking about. Or maybe the link to, maybe if you follow the link to worldwide nutrient deficiencies. We'll check that out later. It's because it was such a, my God, what the hell did somebody else start writing there? That was a weird thing. Okay. Not only are plants getting less nutritious, they're also getting more toxic. For example, over 90% of corn plants in the USA's #1 crop are genetically modified organisms with genes inserted from other species. These genes allow corn to be sprayed repeatedly with multiple weed killers, including glyphosate in Monsanto's Roundup, the most used herbicide ever, 2,4-D, similar to dioxin in Agent Orange, and dicamba. These herbicides are water-soluble and systemic. They can go anywhere water goes, and they get inside plant cells, so the toxins can't simply be washed off before you eat. Plus, GMO corn is also engineered with genes that enable it to produce multiple insecticides in every cell, which the EPA euphemistically terms plant-incorporated protectants. On top of that, GMO corn seeds are coated with neonicotinoids. Associated with bee colony collapse and harm to other insects. That's what I was about to say. It's like those are the things that are killing the bees. With bright turquoise fungicide, and the bags have a warning label not to touch the seeds with your bare hands or allow plants nearby. Of course, all these genetic modifications become obsolete as nature quickly evolves resistance, and we have created a toxic arms race. So what does this mean for us? Well, because corn is in so many foods, corn syrups, oils, products of corn-fed animals, etc., we are often ingesting several toxins with each bite. Not good. So going back to that real quick, it was the even with the plant incorporated protectants, when it comes to biotech,
what is that plant incorporated protectants?
What they're saying is that they've spliced in pesticides from other animals or from other other creatures, period, whatever they might be, because it could actually be animals, not just plants. But the can you scroll back up there? So the point there is that they're saying that it's not necessarily known, but my point is that I don't know that they're just splicing in something from other natural sources, which, by the way, not everything natural is good for you. You can there's lots of poisons
right?
that other plants use that will fucking kill you,
like belladonna, right?
Yeah, right. There's
white oleander,
right? There's plant just because it comes from another plant doesn't mean it's not toxic. There's lots of toxic plants that will fucking kill you. So there's that they may be splicing in something that is actually completely just pure fucking toxic. But in addition to that, biotech has advanced to the point where we can make, basically micro machines. I mean, we can make diodes out of biotech. There's a level, biotech. Right? There's a level of engineering where you can do things. So you could genetically engineer something to create something that is basically a synthetic chemical, because it doesn't have to be the natural chemical itself. Sometimes, even if it's close to another chemical, it can have a completely different effect on the nervous system, on the on you name it. Just taking it and making it an isomer, where the chirality, the left or right handedness of the molecule can change the way that it impacts the body tremendously. So if it's just a mirror image, in other words, it's the same atoms in basically the same configuration, and it's just a mirror image, that can have a vast difference. And so when they're genetically engineering it, they can make small changes to make it more effective. In other words, they find after doing little changes to what that protein, after it synthesizes, whatever chemical, what that is going to look like as an end result, may be more effective. In other words, it kills more, and then can also be more unsafe. So there is a level of, even though their plant is doing it, plants are little, cells are little micro machines, and they can be synthesizing something that is synthetic. Because nature never came up with it, we did. We changed it to the point at which it's no longer the same chemical being produced, even if another plant produced something similar. We're just kind of altering and fucking with that. So therefore, it is not something that's really tested. And so there's not just the fact that other plants produce real poison that is really actually toxic to humans, but then there is the fact that we can use our technology to have a plant naturally produce something that is synthetic. Because it's something that we designed, that we fucked with, that we specifically are making the machinery of the plant fucking do. So just keep that in mind as well. That when they're saying something like that, there's a lot of shit that can go terribly wrong in the way that you do it. So now we can continue forward from there.
Yeah. Broccoli exemplifies the Green Revolution begun after World War II, when our munitions factories were repurposed for mass production of synthetic nitrogen fertilizers and pesticides, and large-scale industrial monoculture farming began. GMO corn exemplifies the Gene Revolution of industrial agriculture of the last 2 decades. It is said this chemical and technological transformation of our food system is necessary to feed the world, but there's a reason to be skeptical. It has only sometimes resulted in increased yields, while producing less nutritious and more toxic food, and much of that goes to animal feed. Both revolutions are heavily fossil-fueled, synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, huge tractors and combines, processing and pre-cooking, plastic packaging, refrigeration, and long-distance transport, contributing to industrial agriculture being a leading cause of climate change. Both revolutions are dangerous for human health. The epidemic of 20 chronic diseases, including diabetes, obesity, breast and thyroid cancer, stroke, and autism, is highly correlated with the rise in production of Roundup Ready GMO corn and soy, both sprayed with glyphosate. Meanwhile, our less nutritious food reduces our ability to fight off those diseases.
Okay, now let me say for something here, because one of the things that's right away is going to key off of anybody who notices the who does try to keep up with things that are anti-science. Like one of the favorite things that people like to point to, because it is there is a level of hysteria and silliness with the correlation of autism with what's it called?
It's a whole published study with
but I'm talking about, well, what is it? What's the thing that's the vaccinations? God, I couldn't think of the goddamn word. When
feel
no, not really. I'm not yelling at you.
Like, I don't know what word it is.
No, the thing with vaccinations causing autism, and like everybody's like, oh, that's, and so anytime now anybody hears the word autism or anything causing autism, they're gonna immediately feel like it's part of that. They're gonna associate it. Trust me, that's
Right.
trust me. Everybody who just heard autism there immediately associated it with that as pseudoscience bullshit.
Right.
And so you have to be able to, okay, now we have to slice this into the properly separating things instead of too broadly associating. So here's the thing: things like autism are a spectrum. It is, first off, it is not just you have autism or you don't. There's Asperger's, and then there's just having a male brain is in a certain way slightly autistic because of the difference between the autism. The changes in the brain that happen in full-blown autism are basically extreme circumstances that are just like the changes that happen in sexual dimorphism. So there's this large spectrum, first of all, to keep that in mind. And then you have to keep in mind that in reality, things don't have a single cause. Okay, nothing in reality has a single cause. Things are caused by lots of different stuff. Okay, there's the circumstance under which something occurs is part of the requirements of it occurring. And so you can't trace, it's natural for us to try to trace single causes back in this one weird thread. And that's one of the things I really loved about this old show that was called like, I forget what it was called, but they traced like the weirdest things back in this one linear thing to where like a guy, chewing bubble gum on the New York bridge caused space travel. It was just like, they can trace it. And the truth of the matter is, it is part of that butterfly effect, but there's just billions of different butterflies that all can be traced. You can trace back to in any given event. And so there are lots and lots and lots of causes. So keep that in mind when you're talking about something that is a spectrum. There is a level of nutrition, a level of training, a level of various things that can ameliorate the negative effects of things like autism, or they can exacerbate things like autism. So in other words, you can have something that is already caused by, for instance, one of the things that they found that is an actual cause of autism is a change to the way in which your gut metabolizes serotonin. It switches. So the way that your gut's supposed to use serotonin and the way that your brain's supposed to use serotonin ends up becoming flipped. It's two different ways that the cells are supposed to use it. And so they discovered that one of the things that happens is this, and one of the things that is related is specifically vitamin D. Oh, what do you know? It's a vitamin. Huh. I'll be damn, a vitamin might actually, wow. So that's one of the things that is the most recent science about the causes of autism. But the thing is, any one thing like autism has many different sources simultaneously.
Going to the paper in which they looked at glyphosate, corn, and like everything in the world, from like renal activity to liver to deaths from Alzheimer's to Parkinson's to this is a amazing study. I am saving this fucking stack of papers on my computer. And as they themselves say, when they're talking about autism, and I believe it is P3.6, so it's not the highest, they're saying the incidence and prevalence of neurological disorders are not readily available for two reasons. They are not as well studied as other diseases, and the diagnostic methods keep changing. Researchers argue over whether the increases...
That's an extremely high p-value for...
Researchers argue over whether the increases are real or a byproduct of change in diagnostics, along with greater attention given to these disorders in recent times. For example, a former diagnosis of mental retardation might now result in a diagnosis of autism. Furthermore, there is a large degree of overlap in symptoms. Typically, manifestations of ADHD, such as distractibility or hyperactivity, are also present in pediatric bipolar disorder. However, the increases have been so great in recent years that most experts now agree they are real and must be environmentally induced.
Right.
So they found data for autism.
So in other words, they have considered those confounding factors and put them in.
And their science is impeccable, and they go back to 90s to 2010. Yeah. And it's this, the research that the article
so the point
is highly correlated with rise in production of Roundup Ready GMO and corn. They said epidemic of 20 chronic, because that's a bold claim. Epidemic of 20 chronic diseases, including diabetes, obesity, thyroid cancer, stroke, autism, correlated with specifically how are you going to back that up? Well, bitch, by stacks and stacks of papers and methods.
And they are specifically saying correlation, and correlation is not causation, but they're goddamn close. They're kissing cousins, motherfucker.
And it's a 30-year steady increase in both, and they mirror each other.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And so there's a wide variety of things. Here's the problem. Most people who are scientifically minded, mathematically oriented, things of that nature, have a cognitive vulnerability in that they have a hard time understanding complex effects, okay? Mm-hmm. Complex simultaneous causes are a difficulty. People tend to be linear thinkers when they are very precision oriented. They think of things in these long, like, this goes to this, goes to this, goes to this, and there's this linear chain of things that they think in, which is why. What was the name of that show? I wish I could remember the name of the show. Where it was like, maybe it's just called Connections or something. I think it was. It was
Connections.
Yeah, and so it was neat, but it also, by showing those linear connections like that, where this caused that, it also highlights the fact that we think like that, and it's so not representative of how reality actually works. We are prone to these linear links in this chain of events, when it's actually, it has to be all of the events in the right order together, happening at the same time. So much of reality all comes together to make one single event, and there's so many causes that we can't mentally really deal with it in a realistic fashion, so we automatically oversimplify just to be able to find something that is the rule. In other words, that is the biggest contributor, just so we can get our hands on something, even no matter how unrealistic it is. Our minds are bent towards getting our hands around something that is the general rule of thumb biggest thing, and even though it's only because it has to do with time and recency and trying to predict, and it's not a real good representation of how reality works. And so people who are more precision oriented, a lot of times they can't really grasp complexity and how many things can be causal in the one thing. And so that's one of the difficulties in trying to communicate things like microbiomes and things like how all of these things together, how all of these diseases, their correlations are part of the fact that there is a wide variety of things which all are separate contributors, and that there is a synergy between all of these contributors that lead to these negative impacts. And because they can't trace it to one of the things and say, that is, I can put my finger on, that is the one thing that caused this, they then cannot see that all of these things together create a synergy, and they can be considered the one thing causing that. And so that is the most difficult thing to communicate to people who are generally very technically able and intelligent people. They have a hard time because of the linear bent that allows them to be more precise in general. That linear thinking is what gets you to separate things down and get to the very precise parts of it, but then in your precision you lose the big picture. And so that's one of the difficulties with this new revolution in complexity. And at the highest levels of the development of science today, people are understanding that that's where we have to start developing all of our brains. All of the, especially technically scientific brains, have to be focused more on complexity and understanding how a wide variety of things all simultaneously act together. And it is the synchronization, there is information in the timing of events. And so the way that the simultaneous configuration of the world over time leads to just these billions of different threads all coming together into one thing. And so that's why sometimes it's very hard to properly track what really caused something. And so that is a kind of a new forward momentum in science, is trying to get more people integrating all the various sciences and understanding complexity, understanding that that our linear paths of the past, our linear ways of thinking, are something that we actually have to kind of overcome as a group.
And another thing I just wanted to add is the last thing we read is talking about on the point of big claims. Since we're talking here, the 20 chronic diseases that are related to corn and soy that is sprayed with glyphosate, that is GMO corn and soy. And the second sentence is, meanwhile, our less nutritious food reduces our ability to fight off these diseases. So the claim is made that food somehow can help fight off things like cancer. Well, bitch, look at this. No, we have information from the National Cancer Institute. when they're looking specifically at cruciferous vegetables and cancer prevention. And they're vegetables from the Brassica genus and include things like arugula, kale, horseradish, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, bok choy, cabbage, cauliflower, wasabi, watercress, turnips. I eat about 90% of these and love them. But actually, reading through this made me realize that we might be doing us a disservice by doing what we do to kale. Because cruciferous vegetables, so how does all this work? Well, cruciferous vegetables are rich in nutrients, including carotenoids, folate, minerals, vitamins, good source of fiber. That's just vegetables. That's obviously nothing special. I mean, it's good, but it's like vegetables. That's how they always are. But in addition, cruciferous vegetables contain a group of substances known as glucosinolates, are sulfur-containing chemicals, and these chemicals are responsible for the pungent aroma and bitter flavor of cruciferous vegetables. During food preparation, chewing, and digestion, the glucosinolates in cruciferous vegetables are broken down to form biologically active compounds such as indoles, nitriles, thiocyanates, isothiocyanates, indole 3-carbinol, and sulforaphane.
Yes.
Which have been most frequently examined for their anti-cancer effects. In fact, we've had indoles and isothiocyanates have been found to inhibit development of cancer in several organs in rats. They also help, of course, sulforaphane in particular, helps protect DNA from damage, help inactivate carcinogens, have antiviral and antibacterial effects, have anti-inflammatory effects, help induce cell death, which is exactly the opposite of cancer. Yes. When your cells kill themselves instead of grow.
I don't think many people know that, though.
Yeah, apoptosis is the opposite of cancer. In fact, one of the ways they were looking at trying to cure cancer is to induce apoptosis.
Yeah, cancer is basically, it's a cell that won't fucking die when it's supposed to.
Yeah. And of course, people, there's evidence of it helping with prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, lung cancer, and breast cancer. A few studies have shown specifically that, cervix cancer, and it's just a whole big thing on National Cancer Institute about the cruciferous vegetables, which once again are arugula, bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, collard greens, horseradish, kale, radishes, rutabaga, turnips, watercress, wasabi. Eat you that all day, every day, and you won't have cancer, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No. That is not what I'm saying.
No, that's not what you're saying.
No, but
you're saying that
food can help.
Do a lot of different things. You have to.
Good food can help. Though.
Real robust solutions require multi-pronged efforts. You have to hit something from 1,000 different angles if you want to actually affect a real, flexible, powerful, robust solution. And so
robust vegetables.
Yes. So you have to go at it from a lot of different angles simultaneously.
Doomsday scenario? Well, maybe. Or time for a third revolution? The microbiome renaissance. Back to the article. A microbiome is simply a community or biome of microorganisms. Bacteria, fungi, archaea, and protozoa. This renaissance, we envision, will include respecting both our internal and external ecosystems at a microscopic scale with macro implications. That's sexy. I like that. It's well worded. In soil, microbes in the trillions are essential for crop nutrients.
I just gotta say that it's funny, having not read this article, what I said before this point sounds like I had already read this article.
Nope.
No, just good prediction.
Yep. Just actual convergence of
how
science.
Things fucking work.
Right.
How reality fucking works.
People who are in the know of what is going on in the world and science who are in agreement is what I'm seeing.
Right.
In soil, microbiomes in the trillions are essential for crop nutrient density, water retention for flood and drought control, soil aeration, decomposition of plant fiber and composting, defense against plant diseases, and prevention of soil carbon oxidizing into the atmosphere. Notably, soils rich in microorganisms draw down and sequester the potent greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide, while also purifying water, supplying plants with macro and micronutrients, and reducing the need for synthetic fertilizers. To reap all of these benefits of healthy soil, we must stop with the poisons. Duh. In humans, our 30 trillion or so human cells are outnumbered by diverse microorganisms, our inner soil, that functions throughout our bodies in exchange for food. The second brain, as I have been calling it for years on this podcast. Bacteria in our colons prefer plant fiber and shelter. That function throughout our bodies in exchange for food and shelter. Yeah. Our microbiome performs a wide range of critical functions, such as bolstering our immune system, manufacturing vitamins, supporting digestion, and protecting against disease. Have you thanked your microbiome today? I haven't, and I haven't fed it any probiotics. We need to fix that.
All right.
As physician and medical communicator Zach Bush summed it up, it is a time to realize that pesticides are antibiotics themselves. Antibiotics that are killing what is left of the good bacteria and biodiverse microbiomes in both our soil and our physical bodies. The key to this microbiome renaissance will be nurturing rather than killing or disrupting the balance of our friendly and essential microbiota. This will require us, humanity, to make organic regenerative farming and gardening the status quo. Regenerative farming means working with, not warring against, nature, planting and saving diverse varieties of heritage seeds, protecting pollinators, growing biodiverse crops that are rotated, using natural fertilizers such as legumes and nitrogen from the atmosphere, recycling organic matter, mulches and composts, multi-species cover cropping and crop rotations to build soil, and grazing, not confining farm animals. This can be at all scales, including climate victory gardens in yards, local parks, terraces, and rooftops. I'm a huge fan of rooftop gardens. That helps a lot with giving people access to nature, which has been proven to be necessary to our immune systems to just like look at nature. So a lot of times when you're in a busy city, sometimes the only place you can have the greenness is on roofs. So that's really cool. Back to in the article. So additionally, a recent study found that after only 6 days on an organic diet, every single person would see significant drops in those pesticides, including several linked to increased risk of autism, cancer, Parkinson's, infertility, and other significant impacts on health. And we definitely know that infertility is also a thing that's happening. Not only is transforming our agriculture to regenerative practices a win for our health and for nature more broadly, it is also a key climate solution. As we've written here previously, we can sequester carbon and improve our nutrition through regenerative farming of land and sea. Especially mussel farms. Sea kelp and mussel farms are really big on drawing down some of that carbon dioxide as well as helping the boost fish growth and stuff, because they have places to live among the kelp and stuff to eat from what the mussels like poop, I guess, or whatever, however it works. However, the microbiome renaissance doesn't stand a chance unless, for starters, we stop using glyphosate, an antimicrobial ingredient in hundreds of herbicides. Glyphosate has been found in air, rainwater, drinking water, and in groundwater used for crop irrigation. It moves throughout leaves, stems, seeds, roots, and soil. It moves through human organs, lymph tissue, and blood. It poisons microbiomes. It's time to boycott biocides, including GMO corn products, for a return to a healthful cornucopia. This is also a food justice issue, as organics are often more expensive and less available in poor communities and communities of color. Fucking amen to that. Living in Memphis, that was our biggest health hurdle, and one of the main reasons we moved is the cost of fresh fucking food.
Yeah, you can get any kind of poisonous food for
underserved communities are fucked. All they get is sugar and wheat. That's all they can buy. Or like little chickens full
and that
of
basically just destroys your fucking
hormones.
Brain. So
so it perpetuates the cycle.
Yep.
It keeps them there. This is also a food justice issue, hence the importance of efforts like Friends of the Earth's Organics for All, and ending huge farm bill subsidies to corn and other big commodity crops, and instead subsidizing the transition to regenerative practices.
Yes, the biggest, subsidies and fucking giveaways are to to corn specifically. That's one of the biggest
corn
ones
and soy now,
in the U.S. Yeah. And so there's just
because they're trying to use it for fuel, and they're putting it in all the sweet products.
Well, it's not just that; it's also a big export, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's definitely our largest crop, but I'm pretty sure it's also one of our biggest exports. I can't be certain about that part though.
As a 2018 report by 130 worldwide national academies of science and medicine concluded, the global food system is broken. And this is 130 worldwide national academies. That's a lot of them. They're all in collusion, I guess. Quote, the global food system is broken, leaving billions of people underfed or weight and driving the planet toward climate catastrophe, end quote. It recommended solutions climate change resilient crops, smarter crop rotation, soil protection, more precise use of fertilizers, and minimizing pesticide use. Precisely. That's what they're arguing for.
Yeah.
Regenerative farming, basically.
They're arguing
working
for
with
what
the
the newest science has shown voluminously is the correct fucking path.
Oh, you mean just staying with the natural cycle of things and not fucking with it? Working with it?
Working with it instead of completely against it is the issue.
Instead of stopping, like, damming it up at every corner and forcing it to be something else. But yeah, you can fold yourself into the pattern and try to work with it. Which is something that we've advocated for in terms of how to treat the body and health-wise.
Well, it's not just that.
Work with the homeostasis
one of the things that we're
tries.
finding over and over is that nature did it fucking better, and if we can use lessons from nature, the biomimicry at all levels, everything from the way that we end up designing governance and any kind of system, the level. Biology handles complexity well, and we kind of had a hubris about our ability to do things in from a short-term perspective, and so there was a lot of different complex processes that biology and all the various systems of nature were accomplishing that we did not realize the necessities of long-term approaches. There are these necessities to long-term approaches that you lose something in the short term, and our inability to recognize that the loss was an investment in the future made it where there's all these different things where we thought that we were doing it better because we get bigger short-term gains, and we don't recognize the long-term loss. And so it's actually our short-term thinking that made us believe that we were superior in a variety of ways to what nature was accomplishing. But
you sure you haven't read this article?
Oh, what does it say?
There's only one last paragraph left, and it says, "It is pure hubris to think."
Yes, I read that part. So that one, well, just that first 4 words.
Right. It is pure hubris to think we can manipulate nature into agricultural perfection with synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. Indeed, words. Instead, to adapt to and mitigate the intertwined ecological, human health, and climate crises, we must respect the elegant complexity of nature. We must overhaul our food system, and it can all start with the foundation of ensuring that microbiomes flourish.
And that's what it is. It comes down to complexity, and a bunch of minds out there are not complex enough. They simply can't grasp complexity. They can't deal with it. They can't handle it, and they can't see the way that it works. And so there's a big gap in educating people in understanding the concepts of complexity and how it works. That is one of the biggest challenges, because we're talking about a giant portion of the adult population, and people who are very they're very good at engineering. They're very good. It's basically it's a type of that halfway point between autism and just being fucking, because there's the thing, there's a brilliance that comes along with Asperger's, and and there's a powerful mental bent
reaching to the choir
that comes with it, but then there's a loss, and they're not aware of what they're missing. And that's the thing that we have to get across to a lot of very brilliant people who are very good, but they don't know the type of intellect that they are missing. They can't grasp it because they don't have it, and until you start showing it to them and saying, hey, this is a way you can become more intelligent if you bolster this method of thought. And so long as we continue to communicate that and show examples of how it works, that is the solution that we have to get to. We have to get the people who are very good at things to recognize that they are also bad at things, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can't be a marathon runner and a heavy lifter simultaneously. You have to give up something to gain something. And so, but at the same time, you also, if you don't get a little bit of endurance as a heavy lifter, you're probably going to just die at an early age, and from all that overdoing your muscle. And if you don't get a little bit of muscle, along with all of your endurance training, well, there's a lot of different tasks that you might not be able to accomplish that you want to accomplish, including maybe you don't want to be really fucking skinny like a marathon runner. It's like, so there's give and take, and I'm making sure that these people who have specialized more towards that linear precision thought process, that they understand that they're missing a level of complexity and pattern matching that that they can bolster some without going 100% and all the way to one side or the other.
Which is true. But that's all we have for you. I don't know how to end this.
I think that was a good end.
Yeah. So yeah, eat your greens.
We should go over the comments because I haven't read much of the comments.
Okay.
Snake poison is 100% natural. That's a good one. Let's see.
Yeah, Patreon comments take priority, but other than that,
yes, correlation is not causation, but it's a great place to start looking. I totally agree with that. Yep.
In the future, when we can have super chats, we will use this time for super chats.
Yes, we will.
Since we can't have super chats.
Oh. I don't have super chats.
No, we're not monetized. We're all. That's why Streamlabs is the thing I mentioned, because we're flying by the seat of no monetization.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us in our ranting and raving.
Our first of a kind, but it was really fun.
Yeah. That was, every once in a while, you just gotta fucking let loose.
Yeah. We're gonna get back all serious about the noosphere and stuff next time. And
this time, we're calling motherfuckers on their bullshit.
That's right. That's right. And I can't guarantee that we could always find something that was so egregiously bad.
This was a particularly good one. Yeah,
right.
I mean,
I don't know how often we can repeat this.
It's like I can't lose my shit that frequently. I mean, I can lose my shit pretty fucking frequently, but this one is.
But for it to be worthy of a whole stream.
Yeah.
So we'll probably get back to the news and the occasional deep dives on a topic. Like next Monday, I believe, we got the noosphere. Know thyself. I'm gonna go more into spiritual,
nous, logos,
mental knowledge, frou stuff.
Yes, we're gonna get froofy as fuck.
We're gonna get froofy. It's gonna be good.
Yes, not froofy. It's just complex.
Yeah. Well, it's not like hard science. We're not gonna talk about protein cascades and
Yeah.
Fucking aerospace.
There's a level of here we're gonna go beyond here. Okay, so hard science, when you're viewing an illusionist, says that you can never ever say that there is a mechanism underneath his coat that allows him to shove a spear through his chest. That is unscientific because you have not observed it. Just keep that in mind. That there is a limit to certain things, and that there is a purpose.
If the science, if the magician's trick is the only thing you get to see.
Yeah, well, no, you're never allowed backstage, and you can see it thousands of times. Thousands of other people can replicate the observations. All they have to do is go see the same. There may be multiple illusionists performing the same trick, and so after thousands and thousands of observations, they see the same thing. Well, you can't say. Because you haven't observed a mechanism underneath there. You can't say that there's a mechanism because that would be unscientific. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the problems that happens, and that because you cannot speak about certain things, you have to be aware that there are certain leaps of faith to having a rational viewpoint. You do have to make allowances for the fact that it is a leap of faith, and you have to know that it's there. It is a leap of faith specifically to say that. That illusionists are not shoving spears to their chest. They're not doing magic because you haven't seen that illusionist trick. You can't say that you've seen that illusionist trick and you know exactly how it works. That would be a lie, and you're not allowed to see it. So, and this is actually applicable to my specific study, which is the reason why theoretically ether was removed was because you can't comment on there being a mechanism to cause length contraction and time dilation and things like that. You can't be if you haven't specifically come up with an observation. Now that doesn't mean you can't ever I've said that you can't observe it. I've simply said that you have not observed it, and that is the dividing line upon which it is completely a metaphysical preference between Poincaré and Lorentz's ether theory and Einstein's special relativity. It is just a metaphysical preference based upon the idea, and that they say is that, well, if you haven't observed it, then you can't speak about it. But it is the difference between saying that there is I know there's a fucking mechanism under there causing the spear to look like it's going through his chest. There is a mechanism because I don't believe in magic. And so that I believe to not believe in magic is the core principle of the first scientific impetus, to understand that there is mechanism to reality, to the world, and that is the basis behind science, not just observation alone. That it is that there is mechanics to the world that is the basis that got us out of the caves, that got us developing things, because it is that basis that there is mechanics, that there is cause to reality, that it's that it isn't just magic making things pop into existence, and and magical beings making things happen. That is how we became scientific. That's how we got out of the caves, is we stopped believing in magic. And so yeah, I'm always going to pick that it's not magic.
Yeah, except the whole point is that a lot of people believe that the whole what?
What?
Well, we're talking about doing an episode on something that to a lot of people is not hard science, and so you're saying yes.
I am saying
I'm so confused.
Okay, what I'm saying is that there is that there is a mechanic. Okay, when we talk about something that is not hard science, what I'm saying is that there may not be direct evidence of it, but if you can outline a set of specific properties, logic, things that mechanically fit together.
Of not hard science.
Right. In other words, what you're saying is, and I'm saying that yes, there may not be specific evidence of one particular thing, but that's how you explore. Is you find something that when there is hard mechanics, and you can provide a set of mechanics. That doesn't mean that is necessarily the mechanics, simply because you can provide a set of mechanics that will accomplish it. That doesn't mean that that's necessarily true either. But at the very least, you should have a set of proper mechanics that actually explain a phenomenon before you go after it with too much liveliness. Now, that's not even a hard rule itself, because a lot of the things that we do in science are based on just abstractions that don't have hard mechanics behind them, and we find out that it's a phenomenon that just occurs, and we can use that phenomena. And so that's a long discussion.
We go both ways in science. There's those who can't call anything science unless it's literally a millimeter's worth of causation. 1-to-1, you have to observe exactly.
You have to observe exactly that, or it's not science. And that's what I'm saying. That's the hardest materialist, viewpoint, that they will say you cannot say. Now, they wouldn't say it in that particular instance because they don't want the absurdity to be brought out. But when it comes down to it, they will say, no, you cannot comment on scientifically. You cannot comment and say that there is a mechanism underneath that person's shirt. You can't say it in science. Just because you know that the rest of reality works this way, that doesn't count. That's induction. So there's an important part there and I'm saying yes, that is science, to use induction in that particular way. It is not only is it science, it is a necessity of science that we use in induction, and simply be aware of the fallibility of that. And once you've made account for the fallibility of the inductive process that is necessary for a deductive sort of reasoning, then you actually have a more robust way of looking at and looking for the truth.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna do. Gonna look for the truth, and it's always difficult to marry spirituality and
hard materialist science.
And science, right? Because do you go the neuroscience route? Do you go the psychology route? We talking about the mind, the soul, consciousness. Like there's
well, information theory is specifically where I go with it.
A lot of people smarter than myself. They're not quite as smart as Master, but a lot of smart people are all together talking about exactly that intersection. And we happen to have one of them in the house, so we'll have to talk about it next week.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. In the meantime, come support us on Patreon. It's a really good time. We do stuff that are awesome, and we're about to go do one of those awesome things, such as hang out with our patrons and talk about some stuffs. And yeah, come join us on Patreon if you can. If not, thanks for joining us here. We had a blast. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Do the YouTube thing if you want to. You can subscribe for monthly, multiple ones of these. You can even get notified when we go live. And you can come throw in your comments while we chat about all this stuff live. But Thanks for watching and joining us. I'll see you next week. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.